Well, here we are at Plumber Manor, my base for exploring Dorset and recharging some batteries. More a family home, think shooting party weekends. Such is the warmth and hospitality of this privately owned manor, ably hosted by Richard, well known for his family-sized cocktails, taken in the main lounge. More of that later. Plumber Manor is a Jacobean pile located just a few miles from Sturminster Newton, and if that doesn't help, it's centred deep in Hardy country, with Sherborne to the west, Shaftesbury to the east and Blandford Forum to the south. It's my first breakfast and it seems no menus. Just ask for what you want, whether it's a full English or even some smoked salmon, and it's granted. First on my to-do list was Fiddleford Manor, close to my base. Such a romantic name and history dating back to the 1370s, and once a mill, it is now owned by English Heritage. Set along a very long and muddy, narrow path, it seemed an eerie place. No one was there, just help yourself. Should you be a lover of ancient crafted ceiling beams, then this is the place for you, as the ceiling is said to be one of the very best examples of medieval workmanship in the country. For me though, without anyone around, it seemed full of ghosts, and it was a pleasure to get out into the air and the daylight once again. Signs now of autumn approaching at the end of September. As a keen photographer, next on my itinerary for the day was the Sturminster Mill, a beautiful building as these photos show on a sunny day. Reality though for me was a grey morning, the mill was closed for renovation, very far from the photographer's paradise I thought. Oh well, perhaps another day. Now on to Sherborne for a planned gourmet lunch and to explore the old town. It was a windy morning, but the forecasts were good. Sherborne has a wealth of medieval buildings set on a very steep hillside down to the River Yell. It is dominated by a magnificent abbey, which we shall see later. Records reveal a settlement here right back to 705, and many of the buildings on the high street are from the Tudor period, boasting now boutiques and art galleries. This leads down to an open square near to the abbey. It contains a hexagonal building named the Conduit, and it is here that the monks used to wash, and is only now a stone's throw away from the magnificent abbey itself, just through the alleyway. It was founded here in 705 AD in Saxon times to what is called the Cathedral of Dorset today. It has glorious fan vaulting and the heaviest peal of 8 bells in the world. 2 Saxon kings are buried here, and imagine the sound of the Benedictine monks chanting here for over 800 years. Even Sir Walter Raleigh worshipped here. Nearby are some of the almshouses. And nice to see the original stone cobbles leading to the cathedral entrance. And after a long tour around the Abbey, a well-deserved lunch now at the Green. It's no surprise that this young team has retained a bib gourmand for the last 4 years, and in my view they're well on their way to a very well-deserved first Michelin star. Today I've made a trip to the coast for a birthday treat. Lunch at the jetty on Christchurch Harbour. But first a look around Mudeford Quay. Though no time elapsed to take the busy ferry connecting Christchurch, Mudeford Sandbank and Bournemouth. Constructed in the late 1940s, it now sports fishermen's houses, a public house, restaurants and stalls, all selling seafood caught by local boats. And the whole area here was well known for smuggling and gun running. oldest of the buildings are now known as the Dutch cottages. And after a long drive down here and a good walk around in the fresh salty air, it's now time, with appetite ready, to get to my restaurant. So now on to my birthday treat. Photographs alone just don't do justice to the beautiful waterside setting of the jetty on Christchurch Harbour, a Michelin-starred restaurant where fresh seafood is the key. With some pelicans or storks around, you could almost imagine yourself on the Med or the Florida Keys. But no time to linger now with aperitifs on the terrace. It's time to go into the restaurant and start the 7-course tasting menu with wine flight, of course. Well, after that glorious meal, it was now time to retrace my steps and return back to Plumber Manor. Back now at base and another early start. It's worth a look around the grounds of the manor, with the bridge worthy of a canvas by Monet, surely. But I was reminded of the famous author Thomas Hardy, who wrote Far from the Madding Crowd, not far from here. You could say the silence was deafening on this clear morning, save for the distant bird song. And with the shades of autumn already colouring the trees, what better place could you have to recharge your batteries? My accommodation was in a more recent addition to the manor, and very comfortable and spacious it was, overlooking the grounds from a comfortable window seat. And the evenings here taken by a wood fire in the lounge, olives and canapes, and of course Richard's famous family measures, before repairing to the restaurant for dinner, ending with a light dessert. Now this very definitely wasn't part of the master plan, but the grand entrance gates with the car park was too much to pass by. Minterne Himalayan Gardens are not something you might expect to find in deepest Dorset, but here they are, and courtesy of the National Trust, I began the exploration. Some happy souls selling the tickets and showing some very interesting cakes, so I thought after my trekking round the Himalayas it would be a good plan to indulge in some of this soup and cake. Well, it wasn't exactly mountainous, but trekking up and down the steep hillsides with the odd Sherpa hut, temple, waterfalls and a wishing tree, it somehow did capture the foothills of the Himalayas. Well, I'm almost back to the starting point and ready for some homemade soup and cakes. Well, would you believe it? It's all locked up and everybody seems to have gone home. Well, I must have been the only soul here. We've been to and stayed at West Bay many times, long before even they set the TV murder mystery here. But today's plan was to enjoy the wonderful oysters and crab sandwiches, which are such a delight along the Jurassic coast, especially after the garden tea rooms had shut. It's all here, the fishermen's houses and the busy harbour, boats bobbing, children crabbing. But would you believe it? Not an oyster or a crab sandwich to be found. You might do better along the coast at Burton Bradstock. Well,
there once was a ship that put to sea, and the name of the ship was the Billy O.T. The winds blew harder, bowed it down below, my bully boys blow. Soon may the wellermen come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go. She'd not been 2 weeks from shore when down on her a right whale bore. The captain called all hands and swore he'd take that whale in tow. Soon may the wellermen come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go. Da 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 da.
well, here we are at Burton Bradstock as directed, and the anchor inn certainly looks promising, and if their billboards have anything to do with it, I might just find some oysters or a crab. I was in luck, well, with the crab anyway. Together with a crisp samphire and mayonnaise salad, it certainly filled the bill and was well worth the journey. As it happened, Burton Bradstock itself, somewhere I hadn't visited before, was more than worth the journey in itself, with its picture postcard cottages. You could say, being so near to the coast and the Chesil Beach, that it enjoys the best of both worlds. A delightful village with narrow twisty lanes and even a stream running through it, adding another photographic notch to my bow. Set with a small village green and an ancient church, it is the epitome of the perfect Dorset village. It surely must have been an inspiration for one of Thomas Hardy's novels. It was first known as Bridestone, originally with only 28 houses, taking its name from the River Bride that flows through. And after another wonderful day, it was back to the manor before a visit to Sherborne Castle and Gardens in the morning. This wonderful parkland, set around Sherborne Castle, was laid out by Capability Brown, and the castle built for Sir Walter Raleigh. It was interesting to see and sit upon his favourite seat here. And it's no wonder that Alexandra Pope took inspiration and wrote his famous poetry surrounded by Capability's mastery of landscape. Nearer to the castle are the more modern and colourful formal gardens. After all the wonderful landscaping, I have to say I found the architecture of Sir Walter Raleigh's castle a tad austere and forbidding. But perhaps it was because the weather had now turned grey and it was time to go. I am nearing the end of my break now and stopped off at Blandford Forum. It was on a road I had seemed to be using quite a lot crisscrossing Dorset, and with such an ancient name the village just had to be worth turning off for. And I'm glad I did. The weather was great, and instantly the Royal Oak appeared just at the right moment. A quintessential British pub, nice weather, and a grapevine covered terrace, even a water feature, and of course a cool pint of local beer to accompany a generous bowl of wild garlic mushrooms. And a fellow companion. What could be better? But what this village is famous for, and a little elusive to find, is the prehistoric figure etched out of chalk on the hillside locally. The Cerne Giant has been here since, well, nobody can really remember, but certainly for the past 400 years, but some say as long as 4,000 years. There is no doubt that it's a fertility symbol, and if the ladies sit in a certain spot, it is said that they're certain to conceive. But now on this last afternoon, it was time to return to Plumber Manor, do some packing ready for my journey home in the morning. So my week is almost over. A last walk to see the bridge, and then a few minutes more savouring the tranquillity sitting on the manicured lawns of Plumber Manor. Hardy was so right with his novel Far from the Madding Crowd, set here in deepest Dorset. But it's time to return to reality. I shall miss the delights that Dorset has given me these last few days, and not forgetting, of course, Richard's family measures and the bonhomie. Ready for the good life? You bet. And I found it here in Dorset.